Well, welcome back to another episode of the Partnernomics Show. Today, I was joined by Catherine Moores. So, Catherine is a co-founder of Sorted Collective, and as you'll hear in the podcast, these are stories that I love to share because Catherine and a couple other agency owners formed a strategic partnership to kind of bring the best of all worlds together with their different disciplines of marketing and form that strategic partnership. And they've worked together for years. And it was so successful that they decided to form a joint venture to actually form a company that they're going to operate under, but then, go to market through a single brand and work together that way. So that's an awesome, awesome story. And she is super knowledgeable whenever it comes to the world of marketing. That's, man, it's just changing by the day. So, Catherine was kind enough to share her insights with us. I always enjoy chatting with her. She went through our quick launch boot camp a few months ago, and I just learned so much from her. So, I had to have her on the podcast. But I hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. Here we go.
Welcome to the Partnernomics Show, where industry thought leaders discuss the hottest topics in partnerships, ecosystems, and innovation.
Welcome back to another episode of the Partnernomics Show. Today, we are joined by Catherine Moores. Catherine, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, thanks for your time. I always love the opportunity to chat with folks that have spent a lot of time in specific areas or lanes of business, and in particular, those that are just evolving and moving as much as marketing is. So, definitely no shortage of things for us to chat about. Really, really looking forward to having this conversation with you. So, Catherine is a co founder of Sorted Collective. And so Catherine has been in the marketing space for a long time, super knowledgeable. I've had an opportunity to work with Catherine quite a bit over the last few months as she went through one of our quick launch program courses. So I've had the opportunity to just kind of see from the inside of what she's been working on. But Catherine, I don't want to kind of spoil it any more than I already have. I'd love to just kind of start with your background and tell us what was your kind of first jump into the professional world? Was marketing the thing that you wanted to do since you were a kid, or is that something that's evolved and developed over time?
I am one of those crazies that has always known that this was going to be my lane. Like as early as kindergarten, first grade, I was always the kid drawing, doodling, getting in trouble for, making pictures on math worksheets when it probably should have been like actual math. Um, yeah, so went to Iowa State, got an art and design degree there. Had always known again that I was going to be kind of the creative one in all of that. Um, and then started working agency jobs after that. Went right into um, first agency jobs in Manhattan, Kansas, and then moved to Ames, Iowa. Worked at an agency there. Out to Denver, and then back to Manhattan, Kansas before we landed in Kansas City a few years ago. All of those hops around were great for agency experience. Everywhere you go, you kind of take a little nugget with you onto the next agency. And then when we moved back to Kansas, after living in Denver, I was ready to do my own thing and have been doing that now since 2008. So I'm nearing I would say what I call senior years of
Yeah,
independent
that's quite a
consulting.
while. That's quite an
Yeah.
accomplishment.
It's been really great. It's been a lot of fun. I have learned so much along the way. Every client, every experience, every agency has taught me so, so much. So it's been good.
Man, as I mentioned before, as I think of like different disciplines that are out there, I think somebody would be hard pressed to find one more than marketing that's changed. It's totally constantly being revolutionized by so many different things. I'm sure we'll end up unpacking that. But Catherine, a question that I have for you is, there's obviously a lot of folks that where they jump into the entrepreneurial space, they start their own business, and sometimes it's their very first or maybe their second, foray after high school or college, whatever the case may be. But like myself, you worked with several different organizations and companies out of college. Um, you mentioned that you learned a lot, but given this, like where you are now, uh, would you recommend that to somebody else? Let's say there's somebody that's, in their, late teens, early 20s and interested in marketing or already in marketing. Is that a start that you would recommend? And kind of what is the additional learnings and benefit by working inside of different organizations? You were even in different geographies, which I imagine also kind of plays into that.
It was really interesting to be able to see kind of under the hood inside each agency, just how processes and systems work differently, how they communicated with clients, what kinds of clients they had. Some were more regional, some were more local. I had a couple of national, like big name clients, I mean, Fortune 500 style clients with that. Um, so it was interesting to see the similarities and then the differences across each one because there were through lines in all of those. And it really helped me cut my chops. I knew at some point I was going to have my own independent business or I was going to be sort of senior management at one of those, and something like that. Um, it helped me learn those systems and processes so that I could apply that to my own now independent consultancy. But then I was able to bring kind of another lens when I went out on my own of client empathy, agility, relationship building, the things that maybe the softer skills that aren't taught in a really typical corporate setting. They are, but at a different level. When you're a junior art director or something like that in an agency, you're at your computer, 7 to 8 hours a day. You're not necessarily client facing. You're not necessarily out building relationships to bring more work in. Your product is your time at that point. And now, with what I'm getting to do, I get to be on the forefront of that more so. And I really enjoy that. I really enjoy working with clients, building those relationships so that we can have not transactional, but more transformative kinds of outcomes with that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I spent the first 13 years at Sprint, massive company, 87,000 employees, I think it was. And then, I told myself I have to get some small business experience. I grew up like almost literally inside of both of my parents' small businesses. And but I wanted to get that experience. I worked with two national software companies, but both fewer than 150 employees. And as you mentioned, it's so different. And it was an awesome learning experience. And you learn things to do and you learn things not to do, right? From
Yes,
all of those
absolutely.
different organizations, but it's,
Yeah.
things that you can take. And I think is, both of us, we're, um, you know, coaches, consultants, advisors, whatever you want to call us, right? To our clients. And, I think it's hard to do that unless you've been in their seat. And so it was kind of something that I wanted to do. And it sounds like you did the same thing. But
Yeah.
Catherine, the world of marketing is so big, so wide, right? There's so many different disciplines, so many different pieces to that. Um, and what areas have you spent most of your time or in your career? Kind of what's in the center of your expertise?
So, where I really excel is in creative direction. A lot of organizations and a lot of companies that I've worked with have really good strategy and somewhat fragmented execution. So, I'm the bridge between all of that. I get to take ideas, strategies, goals, and actually turn it into something tangible: books, social media posts, campaigns, rebranding, all of those kinds of things. Anything that is going to be the manifestation of that earlier idea that came out of the boardroom.
Awesome. Well, Catherine, I'm really, like I mentioned, I'm super excited to have you on the podcast just to kind of share your background, but more specifically, you have developed what I see as a lot of times just being really the proof in partnerships. And so you developed a strategic partnership with other agencies here from the Kansas City area and kind of talk to us about kind of the evolution of getting to Sorted Collective. Um, like I mentioned, you started this relationship with other agencies that's in Kansas City, working with clients. Um, Talk about kind of that dynamic and how it's evolved, over a couple years to get to the point that, where you are now.
Yeah, we're so excited about this. So, Over the last few years in my independent consultancy, of course, I have a very specific strategic lane. And then if a client has an outcome that needs more support, I've obviously had a team of people that I can call upon when the need is, specific. Over the last couple of years, those needs have really fallen on two strategic partners. One of them is in digital and web services, and then another partner who is all in PR, strategy, messaging, which has been great. Now we've decided that the three of us can create a unified service, is how Sorted Collective came about. So that we're not just independents pulling each other in more or less as subcontractors. We're coming together as an agency of sorts, where we can get everyone's messaging, alignment, strategic alignment, and then outcomes all together from the start. And in doing that, we created a 90-day sprint model, which is unique to most agencies in that a lot of agencies are expecting a 12 to 18 month timeline for a lot of their projects. Their product is time. Yes, they're coming out with campaigns and they're coming out with deliverables that come at the end of that, but we're coming in saying we can get results a lot faster, we can get momentum faster, we can create outcomes a lot quicker with the sprint model that we've developed. So we're really, really excited about that.
I love that. That makes so much sense. As you've seen
Yeah.
from our partnernomics methodology,
Yeah.
we run the same thing, right? From these 90-day engagements,
Yep.
you look at different systems like EOS and many others, right? They run kind of these quarterly, these 90-day sprints and cycles. But I think even from a coaching, consultancy perspective, it's just easier. We've found that it's easier for clients to kind of wrap their heads around and think a quarter at a time. And it's typically right. It's enough time for an agency, a coach, a consultant, whatever the case is. It's enough time for them to prove their value and to get some things put in place. But it's not such a long 6 or 12 month engagement that it kind of scares some of those CEOs, founders, CFOs, CMOs, whatever the case may be. It kind of scares them off. I think that's super smart, and it's certainly been a good move for us.
And I think it helps gain clients get confidence quicker about what you can do and what you're bringing to the table. It speeds up, alignment. What we really try to do with our 90-day sprint is just break down the silos that happen. Marketing's doing one thing, digital is doing something else. There's a strategy there, but maybe it's not the same strategy between all of those. We can flatten all of that and get to results so much faster in the way that we're approaching this.
Yeah, it makes so much sense. I mean, these business owners, they're looking for results. They don't want to buy somebody's time. They want to get results. And I think I love the word alignments that you used. Because that's what it's all about, and it's getting to those results faster. But it's making sure that both parties are aligned to get those results. Right, set up a plan. Here's the things we're going to do. Here's milestones we're going to hit, and certainly, and I imagine you guys have seen this as well. As soon as you start to get the results, you can prove to the client that you can stick to a schedule, then they're happy. They are thrilled to continue working with you, and you end up getting that 6, 12, 18, 24 month contract that you wanted in the first place.
And that's ultimately what we're hoping for out of these 90-day sprints. We can do one of two things. You go through the sprint, you've got a team in place that can execute because part of the sprint is a 12 to 18 month plan. You guys can go ahead and execute that, or we can talk about what a longer term engagement looks like once we've gone through that 90-day sprint, gotten clear on what your goals are, gotten clear on your messaging, positioning, to start to deliver some assets and digital needs in there. But then, we can continue on whatever feels like best for the client. So.
Awesome. So, Catherine, throughout your career, right, you've worked inside of an agency, you've ran your own, working across multiple industries, doing different components and pieces of marketing. What are some of those big lessons learned that you could share with different executives that are out there that are looking to tackle a big marketing initiative or a rebranding or just the challenges that they're feeling within their business, what's some of those insights that you could share with them that you've picked up over the time?
Um, Clarity is king, I feel like, has really been the biggest thing that I've learned from all of this, and that marketing can be super fragmented, right? We can look at this, and I think a lot of the issue in marketing currently is that there seems to be a lot of tension, just a lot of hunger for attention across every platform, and which is fine. But if there's not a lot of clarity about what the messaging is to start with, you're kind of going a mile wide and an inch deep. And what I have found is that you're going to have so much better results. You're going to get traction quicker. You're going to get to results faster if you consider it to go an inch wide and a mile deep, whether that's a really specific channel, a specific niche, a specific audience. Don't try to be everything to everyone because you're not going to get anywhere ultimately. So that's one of the biggest things that I've taken away. And what's kind of fun is that having been inside an agency and doing my own consultancy and now building Sorted is that I've worked inside the machine, I've been outside of it looking in, and now I get to build a better version of it. So I'm
Yeah,
excited about that.
that is cool. What what are some of the biggest changes that you've seen over, let's say, the last decade? I mean, whenever I think of there's so much technology being infused into business. I remember, like, like days at Sprint and other companies. It just used to be super, super expensive to build brands, and now companies can get software. And I mean, the whole world of working with fractionals and working with consultants seems so much bigger than what that used to be. Certainly, AI is absolutely changing the game, but it just seems that like marketing is just kind of been flipped on its head. From my perspective, whenever I think back to the old marketing days of 2 decades ago, compared to what it is today. Social media, there's just so many different outlets that are out there. What are some of the biggest changes or evolutions or disruptions that you've seen?
Whatever playbook you had 6 months ago is now obsolete. It's changing so fast. There is a lot to keep up with, and that's where I feel like having good consultants, good vendors, good partners, a great team can really help you focus on the most important channels that matter and the things that matter the most to your audience. And that's knowing your audience really well. There's ways to know exactly, audience insights and consumer behavior and purchasing, customer journeys, and um, so much of that I think you have to be really in tune to what your audience is looking for and what they're expecting to hear from you, and being able to craft and be consistent with your message across every platform to make sure that you're being strategic in how you're reaching them.
Yeah. I was just thinking back to about 2 years ago or so, we were having more and more SMB executives kind of reach out to us and say, for the last 10 years, in one case, 28 years, we've had this direct sales path. We had our marketing team and we had our salesperson or people, and we kind of did things this way, right? Everybody has their funnel and they have their equation of how many cold outreaches, and they're like, man, it just that equation has been blown up. We're buying more lists, we're doing more cold calls, we're doing cold emails, we're doing all of this stuff, we're sending text messages, we're buying more ads, and we're getting even smaller and smaller results from it. What do we do? That's the direct path. What does indirect mean? And then that's actually whenever we created the quick launch program for
Yeah.
SMBs.
Yeah.
But just hearing so much about that, but like, what is some, I guess, let's say somebody's out there, 10, 20 employee company, and so, just founders wearing 10 different hats sort of a thing. What's maybe some advice that you could give to them on how they should think about marketing and how to go from just shooting from the hip to starting to be more mature and more methodical as they build a true marketing plan and how to execute on that plan. You've shared some insights with us already, but I'd like for you to just kind of think about that or unpack it for a company, let's say 10 to 20 employees.
I think it comes down to knowing who you are as a company, what you stand for, what your mission is, and then attracting the right kind of audience who aligns with that the most and is going to resonate with that the most. Your audience is going to become your best evangelist. And if they buy into your mission and your reason for being, more or less, you can tailor your messaging to that then. And that just helps kind of feed the machine, more or less. I really think that comes from knowing who you are and why your company exists in the first place. Having that foundation really solid, everything else builds from that. But knowing that is really really important.
Awesome. Um, we mentioned AI earlier, and man, just well, like you said, the playbook that you're using just 6 weeks or 6 months ago, it's you got to constantly rebuild it. And just last week, we were kind of playing around with the latest version of ChatGPT, and man, just it's amazing how much better and like just the leaps and bounds that they continue to make. I'm curious to just kind of hear from your perspective. Um, how are companies leveraging AI to help in marketing? And is it a tool that you guys use? How do you see it helping or competing with the agency space? And how do you guys view AI?
It's kind of funny. I hadn't thought about it from the perspective of an agency space and how it would be affecting that. Um, I think in terms of like day to day, kind of as a secondary VA, it can be really helpful and, useful automating tasks. It's what the difference I call between dollar tasks and $1,000 tasks. If somebody paid me $1 to do this, would I want to do it? The answer is no. I'm going to find another way to do it. That's where AI can be really helpful. That way I can focus on the $1,000 tasks that I want more of, obviously to make, be more profitable. Um, Personally, and the way that Sorted uses AI is, I would say, very loosely. We don't use it for a lot of, uh, you know, audience insights or things like that. We've got research companies and other partners that we work with for those kinds of things. We're using it just in terms of our own operations and our own basically organization just to help keep us on track, agendas and those kinds of things. In terms of creativity, AI will never replace the human element. There is a emotional connector that a human needs to have with another human that AI cannot replace. So I think when it comes to creativity and creating art, I will stick my flag in the ground every time that AI can't replace what we can make. It just machine learning, I don't know will ever get to the place of empathy and emotional resonance that a peer to peer can have. So
Yeah, whenever I use it, I love it. I'm one of those type of people that I just need a start, and then
sure,
it's
yeah,
always easier for me to see 2 or 3 different things, and then my vision gets clear on what I want, and
yep.
then I can run with it. And it's a way that we've used, or at least I've personally used it to help me. But yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how it continues to evolve. Next question I have for you is, I think there's probably been, certainly I think back to my career and conversations around marketing. I think there's maybe a little bit of criticism around um, historically the lack of being able to measure the outcomes that you get from marketing. It's like marketing is always known as that fluffy, kind of feel good department that nobody maybe knows exactly what they do or how they do it or the results that you get. But I think certainly with technology, a lot of other ways, it's we're much better equipped to be able to measure those results now than we were, in years past. But I'd love to just kind of hear, as you think about like working with clients, and certainly as an agency, as a consultancy coming in, it's all about return on investment and showing, what the clients are getting for the dollars that they're spending. Would love to just kind of have you talk about the quantitative side or the measurability side of marketing.
So it's really interesting because I think that's where I play on intuition versus metrics. Um, Intuition will tell us, innovation, opportunity, ways that we can be creative and think about the end means to, creating solutions in different ways. I think metrics and the data will tell us how well it performed, and then what changes to make. They work in tandem. I think you can't have one without the other. I personally like to follow a process of feeling it first, measuring it second, and then iterating it after that, and kind of using them in tandem, um, without the thought of having. Um, I think going in to a solution expecting a clear ROI creates really safe and predictable work, which is okay if you're,
But the creative in you definitely doesn't like that. I would
no, it really does.
You gotta be on the edge. You gotta get
Yeah,
out, try things, and, if you wanna place marketing is one of those things, or especially, like, branding and things like that, you wanna be smart, but, like, playing it safe is we don't learn. I don't think we don't learn as much if we just totally play it safe and take the cookie cutter that others have taken.
yeah.
There's got to be some opportunities to jump out and test some new things, test some boundaries.
And the best ideas are the ones that create emotional bonds, not necessarily the ones that have the clearest ROI.
Yeah, well said. Well said. So Catherine, last question for you, or just kind of the statement. Like, so we've got some executives that are out there. They're interested in kind of reaching out, having evaluation, understanding how they could be helped. Curious to know, like, what's the process of working with Sorted Collective? What does that look like?
Well, we are open to conversations and we're actively having conversations with companies for 2026. So we'd love to fill out the form on our website, connect with any of us on LinkedIn. Obviously, we'd love an introduction and love to meet you and have a conversation and see how we can be of support to you and your team.
Well, awesome. Catherine, thank you so much for carving out some time to chat with us, for sharing your insights. As I mentioned, I love to see when companies come together, they form a strategic partnership, they see the value, the synergies, all the great things that comes from those relationships that are formed, and they kind of take the next step like you guys have, forming a joint venture, forming your own company, and it's a beautiful thing. It's an awesome thing to see. So congratulations for your success. I'm looking forward to continue watching you guys. You guys are going to be doing some awesome things, or continue to do awesome things. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. We're really excited. And thanks for having me on today. It's really fun.
Awesome. Thanks, Catherine.
Thanks for joining us for this week's episode of the Partnernomics Show. Don't forget to subscribe to get the newest episodes at thepartnernomicsshow.com.